And thank you all for joining this first of the 2012 YGL speaker series on new business models. In particular, a very big thank you to Diana. And I think Diana, many of you will know amongst the YGLs, is a very dynamic entrepreneur who's spanned a number of different environments. Very recently sold an important sustainability communications consultancy, Clownfish, a couple of years ago, and has been at the forefront of driving sustainability, particularly from a communications, from a branding, and from a consumer and in customer engagement perspective over the last decade, not just in Europe, which is where she's based today, but also in China and right around the world. And so I think it's fantastic that we have Diana with us to share her experiences, not just her background over the last decade, but also her pioneering efforts to shift consumer preferences and consumer behavior and to provide new ways to engage with sustainability in the luxury industries. Now, let me, before I hand over to Diana to talk to us about where brands meet today's responsible consumers, but maybe let's just take a step back. Some of you are joining the YGL speaker series for the first time, and what I would say is that David Rosenberg, who is the chief executive at Aero Farms and another YGL, and I really established this task force 18 months ago with a group of other steering group members from right across the YGL community in order to provide a platform for discussion around new business models that are focused on taking sustainability to scale, and in the same vein, not making the trade-off in terms of business results. So, you know, those models that you can see how we can grow from a classic business perspective, from profitable growth, value creation, but at the same time, tackle many of the biggest global sustainable development issues that we face. And that really spans both the social and the environmental, and looks at hard wiring and soft wiring sustainability into some of these new business models. We've had a fantastic set of speakers over the last 12 months, ranging from people like Bill McDonough talking about cradle to cradle, a number of CEOs from smaller businesses, and also the more classic sustainability businesses who are driving this within a multinational context, such as SAB. And so I think, against that backdrop, I think this has been a useful platform for providing room to debate, room to share experiences and ideas. The other thing I will say is that this particular task force continues to be prominent and focused on not just the YGL group within the World Economic Forum, but also getting the message out more broadly around new business models and to connect into the broader World Economic Forum programs around sustainability. With that in mind, probably the only other update I'd give to the task force members is that we had a very successful Davos, and just one quick process point. If you could go on mute if you've just joined, just because there's a bit of background noise, that would be really helpful. Someone I think is in a noisy space.
She's been here and she's still.
Oh no, she's like, yeah. I think she's.
Someone can just go on mute, that would be great.
The Stella doesn't do it, right?
Sounds like a very busy place somewhere. So the other thing I would say then in that vein is that at Davos, we also worked particularly with the More with Less initiative that has been driven by the consumer goods industry CEOs at Davos. The work we've been doing, I think, has been well received by those and has fed into that work. That's a project I've been leading with my Accenture hat on. And I think in handing over to Diana, what I would say is that that group is focused very much around driving systems change on sustainability. So looking at what needs to be true to get to scale at speed on sustainability, looking at supply side measures, demand side measures, and the rules of the game from a policy context. But it was very clear that the Davos conversation was all about consumers, and if you like, tackling that potential barrier, which is a conventional wisdom amongst business that says that consumers don't care, and beyond the margins and niche markets and niche products, we can't move the consumer's preference and we can't move their behavior. And I think there's a group of CEOs increasingly that, as we talk about new business models, are thinking through how to use digital technologies, how to use social media, how to use the power of the wisdom of crowds to challenge that conventional wisdom. And I know, Diana, that's something that you have been really pioneering and leading on. And so I think your talks today around that demand side, around consumer shifts and preferences and behaviors, I think is spot on and a great way to kick off 2012 for the task force. So with that, let me hand over to you, Diana, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Peter. And I think you have really described a perfect backdrop to kickstart this conversation. And I'd like to really be a conversation. So you said that you need are necessary, because I love to answer your questions. So just to give you a bit of a background, is I spent almost 10 years consulting businesses how to embed sustainability within the business processes. So it was very challenging. I've done this across 5 markets. I lived in China for a year and a half. And basically the big challenge was how to really oil the conversation, how to help the big businesses and the smaller businesses to really look at the value chain and what are the changes that they needed to make. When I left the business after selling it, stepped down as the CEO of the business in 2010, I had this feeling of I could have done more. And the conversation was like the CSR sustainability practitioners were working incredibly hard to really make these changes, and businesses have invested billions of pounds and dollars into really looking at straightening the value chains and making all these changes. But still, 2010, 2011, the consumer were quite disappointed. So think about yourself as the consumer. Was like, okay, if I want organic, I want it to be, accessible. I want it to be at the same price as normal. If I want a fair trade, it's exactly the same. If I buy clothing, I want to buy the brands I love, but I want those brands to be well made. So a restriction of trade allowed me to think completely outside the box of what I was going to do next. And the gap for me was the conversation was almost like talking to different languages. So as an environmentalist and a sustainability practitioner, we developed this incredibly complex language that only we understood what we talked about. So produce an annual CSR report that pretty much only some people read, not many, and most consumers, most people don't know what it's all about. So all of the changes that organizations were making were pretty much in the back end, and marketing didn't want to communicate those, mainly because they don't understand what to communicate really. What was carbon or carbon emissions or reduction of waste or packaging? That was not sexy in any way, shape or form. And really to be able to engage people which have very busy lives and lots of challenges that life presents in so many different fronts, communications of a brand has to be sexy and have to be engaging. So I went to my first love, which was online, internet. That's how, after working for the BBC and then Virgin, what I did for like 4.5 years. And the internet presented the best place to really join the dots between sustainable consumption and sustainable production. And what was that is because people shop online more than they shop offline nowadays. So the online e-commerce arena is growing exponentially year on year. And people spend an awful lot of time looking at brands, not just clothes or shoes or makeup or jewelry. Also, they do all their shopping, groceries, also online. And the stats shows that people spend anything between 3 minutes to up to an hour and sometimes 2, either comparing brands, looking for brands, looking for information, and then making decisions and really actually, buying online. So this is how Positive Luxury and the Blue Butterfly was born. Because imagine if we could have something that really shows what the brand is doing in terms of the social environmental investment in a way that is accessible to consumers. So if they click, they can see that the brand has positive manufacturing, or they, give money to charity. What are they doing in terms of innovation? What they stand in terms of sourcing policies or suppliers, and all of this described in a very easy way for brands for people to understand. So we developed the Blue Butterfly, which is really a trust mark, and it's completely portable. And what this butterfly does is it plays next to any product, and the brand, for example, any brand could actually take this butterfly and place it next to their products in any website anywhere in the world. So, for example, if I am Stella McCartney, and they can take the brand, and Stella McCartney can place that butterfly next to, their clothes that they sell in Selfridges, in Net-a-Porter, in ASOS, anywhere. And they will display the same information at all points. So what this butterfly does is completely intelligent. First, basically understands the purchase intent of the consumer against their sustainability credentials of the brand. So, for example, if I'm looking for, a dress, and I want the Stella McCartney dress, I click on that. The butterfly understands that, and then I look at it, and I look at the butterfly, and I'm, for example, interested to know whether Stella McCartney has any child labor. So I click on that, and that starts recording what is my behavior as a consumer online in terms of the purchase that I want to or I intend to make, and what are the touch points in terms of sustainability that I'm interested about. We store all this data, obviously, and we produce reports to be able to really understand how consumers behave online and what are the areas that are most interested. So what we did is, in order to load the butterfly with information, we have created a self-assessment questionnaire which WWF, Fenton Communications, and also the Carbon Trust, and all these people that have helped us to develop this questionnaire have worked in their personal capacity. And also the other side of it is we have developed an algorithm that goes inside, goes online and looks at the consumer conversations and the conversations that are happening amongst the brands. And then, although we can't really look at sentiment, because that's very, very hard to track, we look at the conversations and we match those against what the brand has reported. We create a score, and if that score is, if the brand score above that, what we do is we'll award the Blue Butterfly, and they are welcome to be on our site and also to take this butterfly anywhere that they want. The butterfly is a right for the consumers to know, so it's open source. We don't charge for the butterfly, and we won't charge for the butterfly either, and also it's completely confidential for brands to do this. And when I started to put this business together and to create a business model and so on, I met a few different investors, and Karen Hansen, who is the founder of Top Table, which is a restaurant booking site, she pioneered the whole marketing of restaurants all in one website. She sold it to NASDAQ Open Table in 2010. And I talked to Karen about this. She's very passionate about sustainability. And she thought, this is a brilliant idea. How much money you want? And I'm like, well, I'm not sure. I like you to help me out in just putting it together, because technology is something that although I know some bits about it, I'm not an expert. So she's like, right, okay, let's do a partnership on this. You do all the sustainability side, and my investment on your business, I look after all the technology. I'll put a technology team, and I'll help you with that. And I was like, am I dreaming? Somebody wake me up on this. And that's how this started. So Positive Luxuries is been live for 6 months now, and it's been we have a growth of about between 117 to 120% month on month. We've got 1,500 unique registrations, and it's growing in terms of the database. And we've got an absolutely outstanding reception from brands. So really, in terms of what are we aiming to do, is we are helping for brands to communicate their social and environmental credentials in a way that's never been seen before. There's only one other competitor that we've got in the States called Good Guide. But what they do is they put value judgments of brands. We don't. We don't judge a brand whether it's good or bad, because we're nobody to judge us. Ultimately, it's a consumer choice. We just are a medium, a platform for the brands to communicate what they do, and to shop if they want to shop, or just basically to read fun editorial. So that's kind of what we're aiming to do. And I really truly believe that this intersection between consumption and production, the best way to live, the most buoyant way, and to be able to create this growth is online, in order to be able to scale and to be able to for consumers to reward more sustainable, more caring brands, really. And I love to open the conversation and be able to answer your questions, because I think, in the same way that this is open source, I really believe two-way conversation is the only way to be able to tackle this problem. So hopefully you guys have a lot of questions for me.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Diana. That was great. I think that tees it up very well. So let's open it up to questions. I think there are a few that have been coming in as we've been going through, but let me ask you another one, just to get the ball rolling. When you look at your journey, which has spanned both working as a communications consultant, but also now with Positive Luxury, trying to engage consumers directly around these issues, I guess two parts to the question. One, what do you think is most effective in terms of engaging consumers? And I've heard, a lot of big brand companies say that this is a really tough call. It's a tough ask, particularly if you look at trying to engage consumers around sustainability beyond the margins, so beyond that 10% of ethical consumer, green consumer, whatever you want to call it. So what would you say has been most effective? What engages consumers? What makes it emotional for them? What makes it real for them? What taps into real kind of wants and needs?
Well, the main thing is, when we started this company, the point I made is I did not use the word sustainability pretty much anywhere on the site. And the other thing is, the brands that people love are already sustainable in many ways, because most of these big multinational companies are doing incredible changes in the back end, in the supply chain, in the value chain, all the way throughout. So one thing that it put the consumer off is this premium idea, and the second one was the fact that a green brand will not clean as effectively as a non-clean brand. It will not look as sexy if you put a clothing on as a designer brand, and so on. So it's been an incredible journey to find out that actually the mainstream do care about the backstory. What is the product, the story of the brand beyond the product benefit, and that's a talk point. So social media is perhaps the best medium of engagement to be able to tell consumers a story. but also letting them go and find a place which they can actually find out this information in an easy to understand way. It's been the holy grail, to be honest with you, because the consumers that we have are not ethical consumers. They're luxury lovers. There are people that love craftsmanship, good quality, beautiful stuff. They are the Gucci consumers, the Prada consumers, as well as the M&S consumers. So it's a wide variety. The main thing is they find out through social media, editorials. Most of the magazines are willing to write about it. Celebrities are engaging with this. So we've got a brand ambassador called Adam Garcia. He is incredibly passionate about sustainability. He was in Coyote Ugly. He's a judge in Got to Dance in the UK. We've got, a lot of celebrities and high-profile women that want to be featured on the site. They want to be attached with what it means to be positive luxury, because luxury is not about something that is opulent or inaccessible. It's about the small things in life. And lots of people say luxury is about time, it's about chocolate, it's about cod. It's not the very expensive yachts and so on. It has become a different meaning. So positive luxury, we have a shortcut for this. So I don't really know if I kind of straight answer your question, but online is the place that people are not forced to look at something. They go there because they want to go. And when they discover this, they become the ambassadors because they are the ones willing to spread the word. So the way that the community, the website is being growing is through word of mouth as well. So it's all the, Pinterest, Twitter, Facebook, and so on. And is the consumer actually getting these conversations going?
Thanks, Diana. That's very clear. So we've got a few questions coming in. Just for everyone who's on from the YGL group or others, if you have a look at the bar at the top of your screen, there's a chat function. If you open up the chat function, if you want to submit any questions through the chat function, we'll pick them up and get them across to Diana. So on that basis, I've got a few for you, Diana. One which should be relatively quick, I would guess, to answer. Why is the logo a blue butterfly?
It's because it's been the most successful reintroduction of this species in the UK. So the blue butterfly was extinct in the 80s. And basically, they reintroduced the species, and it's today the British blue is called. It's roaming around in the spring. And David Attenborough have told me this story over dinner, and I was so fascinated by it that when I was thinking about how can I represent something that is positive after something negative, which is the paradox of positive luxury, basically. I thought this is a great story because, the butterfly got extinct, but actually there is hope, and there is a way to actually to be reintroduced. There is hope to actually make big changes. So I thought, I love this story and I want to share it, so that's why.
Very good. That's a good story. So, Diana, another question. When on positive luxury, what's the balance between social, environmental, and ecological criteria? And another related question, which is, how do you go about ensuring and verifying performance? And is that a risk? Well,
we try to do social and environmental about 50-50. And we ensure that through the way that the questionnaire is actually made. And also the algorithm is actually coded in a way that we look for both indicators, social and environmental. And ecological falls into the environmental side. In terms of how do we ensure performance, we double check this against GRI and carbon disclosure projects. So all the listed companies will disclose exactly the same data, and we just basically make sure that everybody has, that there's coherence across all the information. And the other thing is we looked at this year on year. So we haven't had the first year yet, but our intention is that year on year we will basically ask the companies to fill the questionnaire. But the algorithm actually crawls the net every 3 days. So anything that has happened, any alteration, any different conversations about a brand is being monitored on a 3 days basis, and whatever changes, you know, we get information online saying, okay, this changed, this hasn't changed, so we know what is happening about a brand on a almost, you know, daily basis, really.
That's very helpful. Another question for you. A lot of the task force sessions have been focused on cradle to cradle. To what extent do you take a full life cycle approach to Positive Luxury's business model, and to what extent do you look at the use and disposal of products?
It's very, I mean, we do look at that. We have a couple of questions looking at that. But at the moment, that is more about how the consumer will use the product. And our model is mainly about communicating what the product is all about. In phase 2, we are looking at how we can actually help the consumers for the better care of those products. And we do that through editorial, mainly. So if you go to the site, we have a lot of editorial features that talk about different things, and we have stories and people contributing. So that is kind of the way that we have so far tackled it. But in the future, we want to have perhaps more educational side of things, but it's early days still. So, but yes, definitely something that we're looking at.
Very good. And another one, okay, is there a particular language and focus that is particularly appealing to female consumers around Positive Luxury?
What do you mean by language?
I don't know. That's just a question from one of the audience.
I mean, the kind of questions that we use in terms of you know, the editorials and everything that we do, it's very easy to understand. It's not sophisticated in any way. It's very magazine-like. And in terms of the butterfly, it's very plain. It's very plain talking. So I always, in my previous life, when I used to trying to tell my dad what I used to do, I don't think my dad had a clue what I did. But he gets this. And he actually reads it and said, yeah, I get it. I understand it. So I'm doing something much better than I did before.
No, good answer. It's always good to be able to explain to your parents what you do. I'm not sure I can. So, the next question. Are brands that have been awarded the Blue Butterfly ever re-reviewed, in other words, after a certain amount of time, to see if a brand's sustainability policies remain or change, and whether or not you need to reevaluate whether or not it's justified to award the Blue Butterfly?
Yes, it has. We award the Blue Butterfly to Apple, because they have completed the questionnaire, and it was great. And then probably about 2 months after that, it was all the news about Apple's workers in China committing suicide. And not just that, the algorithms came up with incredible stuff that from that episode has started coming up online. And we actually took, we de-butterfly Apple, and we haven't made a big statement about it, but we actually have de-butterflied it. And there was another fashion brand that also happened exactly the same thing.
Very good. Another question here from Thomas. Is there a knockout criteria for not being granted the butterfly? In other words, if you have no fair trade, you get no butterfly. And the question he's raising as a second question is, should luxury products fulfill higher standards rather than minimum requirements? What's your position on that?
We have 2 levels. We have 2 levels of butterflies. One that is for basically SMEs, the smaller businesses. So we ask how many employees you've got. And depends on how many employees you've got, we have questions that basically will only pop to those people. Because some of those guys will either have sustainability completely embedded into the processes, or perhaps not enough resources to actually get to all of those, to all of the areas, because have different type of issues. The bigger companies, whether are luxury or not, for example, the Nikes or the Pumas of this world, which they are awarded the butterfly, they have a slightly more kind of deeper type questionnaires, and they're more centered in terms of, you know, not just the suppliers, but also innovation. So how do they embed sustainability within the product, not just the value chain, but actually what is the innovation that they're doing in terms of product? This is your credit to credit question. And we are slightly more perhaps rigorous in terms of bigger companies, so they have much more resources to really actually start making a difference at a product level than just at a supply chain level.
Very good. Another question here from, actually, it's Quentin, but Quentin may have got it from someone else. Have you got examples, it may be too early, but do you have any examples that you can show how your work with consumers and companies has changed behavior because of the blue butterfly, even if anecdotally?
Yeah, I mean, it's early days, but if you go to our Twitter page, you can look at the conversation. So, for example, actually yesterday, somebody said, could you please let us know if you have any sports companies that make karate gear sustainably? So we retweeted that to Nike, to Puma, and to Adidas, saying, help. All of this is online, you can look at it. So people are coming to ask questions and to ask for help. So it's very early days to look at real changes yet. But at least they know that these places exist where they can ask the questions, and we can actually perhaps point them out into the right direction.
So, Diana, one of the questions here from David, who you know, David Rosenberg, who's the co-chair. I mean, so David asks, you know, you're at the intersection of the ratings agency standard, you know, manufacturing, the consumer, you know, retailers, consumer goods businesses, etc. You know, where, you know, on the one hand, where companies can raise the bar, this is ideal, and you know, it's a good consumer proposition. But what are the tensions between the various constituents? Have you seen that in your work, not just in Positive Luxury, but between others? Are there trade-offs to be made in terms of engaging with consumers?
Yeah, I mean, this is a question of language. So the main thing is marketing, who owns the brand, who is the person that is the team that goes and sells the brand. Their priority is to show the brand in the best light. So what is the product benefit? What does it do to you, to me? How does it look? What is the performance of the product? Why should you choose this product over and above everything else? CSR is more about, or sustainability is more about making sure. It's like health and safety back in the 80s. It's something that, although, you know, it's not really that sexy, you've got to do it, because if you don't do it, it's the only way to do business is actually to actually do it. So it has changed a lot over the last 10 years. So the tension is the fact that CEOs, I think, are incredibly engaged with the entire, you know, subject of sustainability and the needs of it. The city now are understanding that, you know, in order to make this work, they need to change the way that companies are reporting, and it's happening. I mean, Generation just produced a report about let's start reporting annually in terms of sustainability. Paul Pullman just actually made that incredible statement committing to that and so on. So that's not the problem. The thing is, I don't think yet there is a place in where this sustainability speak can be put in the forefront of the consumer, in front of the consumer for them to understand. So labeling used to do that. So the fair trade label, you have it, you understand it. There's so many labels you can put in front of packs. So this is why online is perhaps the best, most, it's the best medium for people to really spend the time reading and understanding and engaging. So the tensions is the fact that everybody has their own agenda, and to reconcile this agenda is very hard. So this intersection at the moment, which sounds really kind of obvious, it's been nurtured by the media saying, okay, you guys need to think about it, marketing needs to think about it, CEO is understanding it, the investment community really thinks that it's something important, but this outlet is too new yet to be able to spread the word. What we do find out that when more and more brands are looking at this, they really are engaging with it and wanting to be part of this community. And when consumers find out about it, for every new person on the site, we get literally 3 or 4 people coming as a referral of that particular retweet or Facebook link and so on. So the growth that we're having is absolutely incredible.
And so, I mean, that was the question I had actually, Diana. So when you look at the channel and you look at the technologies, is this being driven by traditional web searches and online, online connectivity, or is this more of a digital agenda? Is it more around social media? Are you starting to engage with gamification? What are the channels that are working for you in terms of consumers and in terms of putting that message out there?
Well, it's not like one channel. It's a combination of everything. So in terms of the technology, all the technology is completely bespoke. And we do use SEO, so search engine optimization, to optimize our site and our content so people can find us. But in terms of the distribution channel of the message, we use a combination of on and offline. So we use PR, social media. And when I talk about social media, I'm not just talking about Twitter and Facebook and Pinterest and Polyvore, and I don't know, the guys at work are much better than me. We're looking at a YouTube channel and LinkedIn and, all the, everything is a search opportunity. Search is how, it's what we do now to navigate the web. So we make sure that all our content is completely searchable. And all the content within the Blue Butterfly is completely searchable. And there's the correlation between brands and issues in terms of CSR issues, and also in terms of brand and brand benefits. So in the way that whether people look for an issue or they look for a brand, they kind of actually get them together and they actually make sense of it. So when you search positive luxury or positive or luxury or a brand, we are normally within the first 2 pages of Google.
So you've got a real business model question here, Diana, and I completely give you the room not to answer it and just politely decline. Should they say, you've mentioned that the Blue Butterfly was open source. If that's true, where does your revenue come from?
My revenue comes from advertising, mainly, and also we are about to launch an e-commerce site, which we have been working pretty much day and night, and we are still delayed for months. So thought we were going to launch it at the end of March. It's going to be at the end of April now. But basically, every single item of the site that you will be able to see, you will be able to buy. At the moment, you can buy it through affiliates. I made only 67p, so that's not really a revenue model today. But in a couple of months, e-commerce will be perhaps our number 1 source of revenue.
Very helpful, very transparent. Thank you. So let me go through some of the questions that we still haven't gone through. So another question for you, Diana. Asia, massive growth from a luxury goods perspective. Any plans in Asia? Already have you got any engagement from the Asian consumer?
Not yet. We haven't done any optimization in Mandarin at all. or Singapore, by that matter. I want to make sure that we have a very good established user base in the English-speaking language, and then we'll move to different markets. US is before Asia for me, but yeah, Asia is coming, but not in the next year.
Okay. This is a question that we ask all the participants on the YGL speaker series. So, Diane, what would need to be true for your business model and for other business models like this to go to scale and to do that quickly? What external things, consumers, regulators, suppliers, etc., what would need to be true to really scale this?
Well, the beauty of digital is that it's completely quick and it's completely 100% scalable. So what we need to do to scale this, for example, is for brands to be able to want to be more transparent, and for brands to be able to really open, they're doing to consumers. So be able to say, okay, this is what we're doing, and you can click through this and read about it and link it back to the CSR report if you want to or not. That's one side. The consumer, it's engaged. The consumer has not forgotten the last 10 years. The last 10 years did happen. The last 10 years were incredibly relevant, and it's open like a Pandora box. We can't go back to the old way of doing business. Consumers know. Consumers want to tell the story. Consumers get excited when they find out that a product that they love, they actually have a backstory. That is made in England, for example, or, it's been embroidered in Bangladesh by this incredible, group of women. They want the backstories. What they don't want is to pay more for it. So I think it's a question of like really having this, I'm not in any way in favor of fast fashion at all. I think, we need to pay for the products and services that we get and for what they're worth. But I think it's a combination of both, of being able to get more brands to be transparent and also giving an outlet for consumers to really understand what these brands are doing and allowing them to be able to talk about it.
That's very helpful. And I mean, a sub-question of that, what do you think it would take for the consumer to really shift? I mean, what do they need to have? I mean, is it, to go back to your point about, is it about a much more simple message than's currently being able to be conveyed because of these conflicting sets of stakeholder agendas? And is it a channel issue? Is it a cost driver issue? What do you think I mean, in the luxury space, I guess we would be more specific, the consumer specifically.
I think, if you look at the broad scale of consumers, mainly, I mean, I can talk about UK, Europe, US, which is the areas that I have been focusing more and doing a lot more research, is that there has been an economic contraction undoubtedly, and that has put a lot of pressure in so many areas of people's lives. And that has basically taken, a central stage in a lot of people's lives. The result of that, what we have seen, is an incremental expenditure or a shift in expenditure from, for example, travel or cars and so on into beauty in the case of women. And what women do is they look at what is the composition of these products. And what I'm saying by this is that if you give them the choice of spending, because people still need to spend or still want to spend, they'll shift where to spend. But if you tell them what is better from a formulation perspective, from an environmental perspective, and from a social perspective, the brands that have either a social, environmental, or natural benefits, they sell more than the ones that they don't. And I mean, I've got Google Analytics to show you anytime. So I think people don't want to change as such. But if the brand facilitates the information, they are definitely willing to read about it and to spread the word.
Very good. So final question to you, Diana, for now. Can you give us a view, if you fast forward 3 years with Positive Luxury, what would success look like and what impact will it have?
Well, in the ideal world, I would love for every brand to have a backlink in every single website in the world that they sell their products and services. And those brands to be transparent in terms of how they do business. So, you know, all these pages and pages and pages of bedtime reading for the CSR report being condensed into 4 or 5 things that I care. What do you have inside your product? What do you do with the people? How do you treat the environment? Why are you good as a brand? And if I believe you, I'll buy you. And if I don't, I don't. And therefore I can vote with my money. So I think success, that's what for me, what success will look like, that it will be a shift in the way that brands do business, and it will be a shift in the way that people choose brands.
I hope that works out to be true. I think it would have a great impact, and I think help to move consumers in the right direction. So thank you very much indeed for taking time to talk to the YGL task force today, and to a number of other guests that we invited on behalf of David Rosenberg, the co-chair of the initiative, myself, and also the steering group. I think in closing, I think the blue butterfly is definitely something that's catching on. I think I've told you before, my wife particularly likes your site, so I'm not sure whether or not that's a good thing. I'll tell you after I check the credit card statement. But on the other side of that, I think hopefully it's starting to change the game in the luxury industry, and I think there is a big chance, as you say, through digital, to scale that very quickly. So another good example of consumer-driven shifts and consumer-driven business models, something I think that's fitted very well with the logic of the rest of the series. Thank you, and for all of you who've joined today, we will be communicating very shortly about the program for the next 2 or 3 speakers for 2012 and another successful year for the speaker program. Many thanks, Diana. Many thanks to everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.